Staying on developments around BRICS, a South African delegation has wrapped up engagements at the BRICS Business Forum. The event, organized by Brazil's National Confederation of Industry, set the stage for the upcoming BRICS Heads of State Summit. B20 Sherpa Cas Coovadia speaks to us now about the outcomes from Rio de Janeiro. Thank you so much for your time, Cas. Do tell us about the major takeaways from the BRICS Business Forum.
Hi, and thanks for having me, and hi to your viewers. Just to clarify, I was at the BRICS Business Forum because the B20 hosted a breakfast there with some other organizations, and that was my key reason for being there. I spent the day at the BRICS Business Forum and sort of partaking in listening to the plenary session there. And what seemed to come out there is that BRICS see the opportunity to work together to demonstrate that a block of countries that want to collaborate, that want to cooperate, that recognize multilateral institutions, can work together and can increase intra-BRICS trade and investment, and increase BRICS investment into other countries and continents like Africa. So I was there because the chair of the Trade and Industry Task Force of B20 also chairs the SA BRICS Business Council, Busu Mabuza from IDC. And in the discussion we are having on our task force, on the Trade and Industry Task Force, we're quite clear that we need to strengthen global trade and investment flows. We need to do that in a collaborative way. We need to do that through multilateral institutions, even though we are absolutely clear too that these multilateral institutions need to be re-engineered, if you like, or changed to reflect economies in different parts of the world, like the economies in the South that are growing rapidly, and where that has significant employment, and where the next markets are going to be. And so that's our concentration. But from the BRICS Business Forum, I think the view was that in the current global dynamics, we can demonstrate that multilateralism still works, and we can work together to actually grow economies.
And how much of that is likely to, or maybe strategically focused at feeding into South Africa's G20 presidency, Cas?
Well, I think South Africa's G20 presidency is looking at equality, it's looking at growth, inclusive growth. And our process is that we are on track to hand over to President Ramaphosa a set of recommendations early in September. We've been in touch. We've ensured that the chairs of our task forces are in touch with their counterparts in G20, our government people in G20, and we're talking to them and seeing how we can ensure that not totally aligned, because these will be business recommendations, but we don't want our president to see the recommendations for the first time when we hand them over. We want to brief our government on an ongoing basis, as we are doing. And I've been meeting, for instance, the Sherpa and the presidency reasonably often. And so that if there's anything that stands out that's totally contrary to a position that our government might be taking at G20, they alert us to that, and we see how we deal with that, so that by the time the president gets the recommendations, there aren't any surprises. So we decided to do this early in September so that we can use the rest of September and all of October to actually lobby and advocate for our recommendations to be considered by the G20 and to find their way into the G20 communique at its summit in November. So we'll do everything we can to ensure that the recommendations find their way into the G20 communique, and then follow up with the next host, which is America, the American Chamber of Commerce in Washington, to try and track if those recommendations are implemented.
As a parting shot, you referenced the U.S. there. How easy or difficult is this handover expected to be, given that the current dynamics are ever-changing?
Yeah, so business in U.S. has been very supportive. A number of C-suite business people serve on our task forces. A couple of them are co-chairs. We hand over our counterpart there, the American Chamber of Commerce in Washington, and they participating in our meetings. So they've been very supportive. They are ready to take over. Obviously, and the reason I asked them to start participating in our meetings sooner rather than later is that as the policy documents come out and as we moving toward the recommendations, they can advise us to say, look, without changing the recommendations, if you use the following language or if you position it in the following way, it will make it less difficult for us to advocate with our government. So we're looking at all of that. We don't want to, our recommendations are our recommendations, what they will be, and that's based on collaboration, multilateralism, open economies, inclusive growth, and all of that. And that's what our recommendations will move toward, making finance available, ensuring that places like Africa don't have a risk premium without any justification, and those sorts of issues. So those will remain once they come out, but we'll couch them in a way that makes it less difficult for our American colleagues to actually motivate and advocate them in their country without changing the essence of the recommendations.
Thank you so much for your input. Cas Coovadia is South Africa's B20 Sherpa, giving us outcomes of the BRICS Business Forum in Brazil.